So greetings again. Welcome to this amazing day for me. I think it's something I've been thinking about for several weeks now, so I'm grateful to be asked to MC and facilitate this. This event is presented by the City of Sydney and of course Carnival of the Bold. And for those who don't know about Carnival of the Bold, it's an initiative by Kevin Bathman over here and Zara Choi over there, and they have been producing creative events and projects with a focus on diverse artists and social change initiatives. The Carnival of the Bold seeks to champion the arts of social change, and it's a movement for us to come together as artists and other leaders to create a deeper engagement around social and cultural humanitarian causes. So check out their website and their Facebook page. This event is we have Auslan interpreters here, Leah and Bettina also over here, and the event's going to be filmed and there's photos being taken, so if you don't want to be filmed or your photos being taken, please let the organizers know. Can you put your hands up, organizers? Kevin and Zara. We'll let you know. So yeah, my name is Kween G Kibone, or Gladys, some of you might know me as. I'm from Uganda, and Oliotia. And yeah, I'm going to hand over for a minute to the beautiful Moreblessing and to Auntie Busi. I have to call her Auntie because I've been taught by my parents that you should never call elders by their first name, and it's something that's important to me. So I'll talk a little bit more about myself after, but more blessings. Take it away.
Hey. Thank you. I'm Moreblessing Maturure, and this is my mum, Sibusisiwe Maturure, or you can call her Auntie Busi, if you so wish. Can they? Just Busi is fine. You don't have to call her Auntie. I don't call her Auntie. Yeah, so thank you all for coming to Artists and Their Mums. I've been looking forward to this since Kevin asked me to come and do it. Just to sort of have a middle point of meeting in terms of, I guess, not that I'm different people, but the Moreblessing you know from home, and Moreblessing who walks down King Street and is a entrepreneur and has Do Not Disturb turned on, those two different people. And to also, I guess on the other side, give a sort of insight into my non-brand me, Mobby. Oh gosh, yeah, right, I just said that. Okay, so Moreblessing is my name, Mobby is what my family calls me. My family calls me. Don't be cute. Okay. Yeah, and then also that insight into the Moreblessing that my mum knows, and the one with the dimples and the gap tooth, and yeah. I guess so. We'll start from you. What were you excited about or scared about with this event?
Oh, don't even know where to start. This is not me. I mean, I think Moreblessing is the extreme opposite of me. I'm really quite a private person, so this is a stretch for me. I don't do public stuff, so yeah.
What do you do, Mum? I don't call her Mum.
I work at Royal North Shore Hospital. I'm a nurse consultant there for patient safety and quality. So yeah, just behind the scenes person. Don't do public stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for about as long as I've known, I've always been yeah, my mum's a nurse, and then because you've been doing this 3-4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah, and I'm just she's like trying to even like talk about like what my mom does. I'm like, isn't a nurse. She works in the hospital in an office. It's kind of like how I'm just. It's also that like perception of like what your parents do. It's always just kind of like, I don't know, they go somewhere and it's sort of like in a hospital and then they come back, or same thing like with like it's really interesting to kind of like. But then also at home. Like coming home and then like telling stories about like your co-workers and stuff like that, and I feel like I know these women that you talk about, and like what was her name? There was a lady who like when you were on the floor and she wasn't very nice, and she was annoying and she wasn't very efficient at her job. So like it's like I don't even know the person's name, but I just know enough about that person, so then if the name comes up in conversation I'm like, no, she didn't, it's just kind of like that insight into the different worlds that we inhabit. We could also and then for me, anyone doesn't know, I am an actor, writer. I am the creative director of Folk magazine, which is a platform dedicated to showcasing an arts and culture platform dedicated to showcasing Australian artists of colour and their work. So that's a lot. That's like the default little paragraph I type up. So I like dabble across a whole range of different things creatively in the hope of potentially making money. So I guess that's like my like creative side. For you, would it have been year 8 when I was first like, I want to do drama? Or like at what point? At what point were you like, performance might be a thing? Because I did also get a keyboard for my 10th birthday. 10th birthdays are really important in our house. So it's the first double digit. So that's when you get like your first, not grown-up present, but it's like your first like serious present. That's not like Nerf guns or something like that. And I got a keyboard. So I don't know. Is it my fault? Wow.
Maybe year 10. That's when we thought you might want to do acting because you wanted to do drama into year 11 and 12. But before that, really, other than wanting to be a baker, that's what she wanted to do. Earlier she wanted to be a baker. She wanted to make bread. And that went on for a long time. And then there was silence when, she didn't know what she wanted to do. And then she wanted to do acting. She wanted to do modeling. But it was during those years when you sort of think, teenagers, they're in that phase where they're not really sure what they want to do with their lives. I think more so being more serious about it was after HSC, when she really sort of became more serious about it. But yeah, I don't think there was really like a light bulb moment that's what you wanted to do. I think it's been like a progressive thing, you getting more and more serious with it over the years.
Mm-hmm. And the backstory of wanting to be a baker, is it the one with the bread in the back seat, or is there a different one? Tell the story. Tell the story.
She just loved nice, freshly baked bread. I think that's where the passion came from being a baker. When we would get bread and we'd be driving back home from wherever we're coming from, she would just decide to start eating the bread before we get home. So I think when you reprimand her, she thought, you know what, when I grow up, I'll just own my own bakery and make my own bread, and no one will be giving me any restrictions of when to eat the bread.
You got to work the system. You got to work the system. So I think I remember that, and I think there was like a period where I did want to be a spy for a little bit, but it was mostly because of a TV show, and it was mostly about the drama around the protagonist's life, and then she did do a little bit of spying, and then it was hard because she had a mother and a sister, and they almost died like every season, so that felt really hard. And languages, like it was just like, I'll learn all the languages and I'll be a spy. But I didn't action that at all, except for Google ASIO, and then I was like, I'm on a list. And then, and then I closed the tab. It's been hard. I guess with acting, when I first started being like, oh, I might want to act, what was like maybe post high school when I was like actually seemed like I was actioning this. What were your initial thoughts?
Maybe thinking of you could be doing it as a side thing, not like a real job thing. Because I didn't know of, like of a successful person who did this acting thing and they had an easy road to it. So I think it's sort of like a protective instinct to say, I think you should go into something that, you're going to finish studying, get a job, and just get on with your life. And I feel like, this industry is a bit more subjective, like it's dependent on a person. You can go to an audition and depends what the next person thinks. And as a parent, I feel like it's just too hard. As a parent, you always want to make the path easier for your children, which I guess it's a good and a bad thing in the same token, because protecting you maybe makes you less effective as a person, but maybe sometimes letting you go sometimes is something that could be a regrettable decision to say, maybe I should have said something or I should have done something about it. I think for all the things I've done, I think parenting is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's just too hard.
I think about it sometimes, usually like months after we've like had a fight, and I'm like, parenting's hard. Usually, like I'm just like, what do you mean? It's simple. Just let me do what I want. But then like I'll like think about what was I thinking? It was like even just like stuff around, mostly because of like just like viral videos and stuff like that, and you're like, why didn't like kids just being not good, and you're just like, oh, why didn't they discipline them? And then you're like, when you go, when I'm a parent, it always goes, well, when I'm a parent, I'm gonna, and then it's used that is I'm gonna ... and then you start thinking about it and you're like, oh, do we talk to them? And then you're like, no, like Super Nanny it rarely worked. And I'm like, do I come, like, and all that like stuff that I was just like subconsciously internalized. And like you go down to their eye level and you talk to them and you look at them in the eyes, and then you go the 3-minute corner time, like, it wasn't the naughty, it was like the thinking space and like the first step, and then you're like, now what have you thought about? And then I'm like, yeah, treat them like an adult. But then I'm also like, even with Andrew, my youngest brother, he's 10, and I'm kind of like, that's a big, I was going to say I'm an honorary parent, but I'm not. I'm more of like, I'm there for the fun, and we can watch Netflix, and then I'll play Lego for a bit, but I'll get tired and bored, and then I will escort him out of my room. And then, yeah, even with him, I think I was like, yeah, and because I also, like, I kind of give him my little insights into 21st century feminism. Just like little tidbits. And then also like even just having those conversations with him, and like, how do I distill this in a way that you understand but isn't nuanced? You gotta give the nuance. Oh, sorry, no, Andrew's 11 now, he's not 10.
See, that's why you're not a parent.
Yes, I wouldn't do well with that. And then because I also write, and like we've had conversations around those two different career paths. I don't know, is it that what are your perspectives, I guess, on writing in comparison to acting?
I think it's similar in a way, it just depends on how people accept what you produce. Mm-hmm. So it's not really dependent on your effort. You can put as much effort as you want, but it depends, do you have an audience for it? Is it someone that's going to pick up your book? But it also depends on the reason behind why you're writing in the first place. So, I mean, if you know why you're doing something, I guess you can keep doing it because you have the why. I guess that's what it comes back to. But if you're doing it to and are living out of it, I think it's quite a long shot because it's not dependent on you. I feel like it's one of those things that you do on the side until they flourish, and then you can let go of other things. Like when you're on those swings with the trapeze as a kid, you don't let go of the other holding on until you've actually held on to the other next one. But that could be an older generation kind of way of looking at things.
With that metaphor, do you think I've been good at that? Sorry, yes, welcome, come back in, yeah.
I think we quite different, and I would think maybe in our family you took the big part of that risk taking. And when I look at your siblings, I don't think they may be that risk takers. I mean, you jump even if you're not sure where you're jumping into, and that's scary for me. I mean, I have to hold my breath to say, what's going to happen next. Because personally, I need to calculate things. I need to work out, what's going to happen. What are we doing? We need to have a timeline. What's happening here, and things like that. So I think we're very different. It takes a lot of give and take to really go on this journey because it's really very different from the way I do things. I'm very calculated. I plan things. I need to do this, to get there, without not just jumping into something like that. So that's quite a challenge.
Just for some context, I left high school and started a bachelor's degree in psychology. And then I had a job then, a job. That's what us artists call making money. And then I was also starting to do acting. And about after a semester, I was like, it's too much. So then I left uni and I left my paying job. And I was like, I'm going to be an artist. And again, I pretty much did the same thing where years later, I'm living out of home. I have a performing job at Luna Park, so it's artistry to some degree. And then after maybe 8 months, I was like, but my artistic integrity. So then I quit. And I had no follow-on plan. And then I was just like, I think I had maybe 2 fortnights rent worth, and then I was like, I don't know, something will come up, and then what came up was me texting mum, and then she's like, hey, with 5 Ys, and like, how are you? Oh, it's so bad, yeah. And then also feeling bad, because I'm looking at my text feed, and the last time I texted was when I needed to pay rent, and it's so much. It's just so much. Yeah. I don't know if I'm better at it at TBC. I'll keep you posted. Yeah. How was that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Round of applause, please. That was... I've never seen that before. And just off the back of that, I've got so much insight for this, but I think one of the things that is really important to me tonight is that, in 2018, that Africans are speaking to each other in a library in Customs House. I think that's a bit of a big deal. And I think it's, important for us to be able to have these hard conversations. And I'd love if my parent was here to have some conversations. So it's an honour to sit here with you. Maybe I should talk a little bit about myself as well, because I feel like a lot, when I was listening to you, I was like, oh, she's going to be fine. Don't worry, she's going to be fine. I feel like that's what I'm, a little bit here to be like, she'll be fine, No, I mean, for me, similar story. When I was in high school, I decided that I wanted to... I was dead set that I was going to be an actor and a performer, and I was going to do music with no background, no training, nothing, no support, 0% from anything. And I remember telling my father that I was raised by my father as a single parent, and I'm the youngest of three boys, so I'm the only girl to add that. And yeah, I guess he was just like, whatever, she'll get over that. And I left high school. I didn't finish because I felt that, I wasn't getting anywhere here. I was coming, I wasn't happy. You know, the teachers didn't pay attention to me like they paid attention to the other students. And I was just set, my heart was set on doing this thing that I wanted to do, which was, you know, to be an entertainer. And it was my dad's fault also. It was my dad's fault because he used to take me to these meetings, these African Community Council meetings, and the children would dance on the side with the teacher so that we can entertain the people at the function. So I'd never intended on doing that. And it's the same way I got into radio. My brothers had a radio show at Radio Skid Row in Marrickville, and I used to go and hang out with them because I liked to rap with them. And one day I walked in there, and I had nothing to do. This one I just left school. I had nothing to do that year, no plan. And the manager said, "Oh, are you Milton's sister? I've been trying to get in touch with you." I was like, "What?" He never told me that. Yeah. I've been. I want you to do a radio show. And I said, "Nah, I'm not interested in radio." And she's like, "No, I've been telling him." And I looked at my brother. He said never said one thing about this manager looking to put his sister on air. And fast forward, so that was when I was 16, and I ended up presenting on that station, ended up working at SBS on radio, and I ended up going back to that station and working there. And until as of last year, I was a manager of that station. So, you know, these are the different stepping stones that when I'm listening here, I'm like, yeah, I think we should... you know, sometimes our careers, you know, they can lead us to many different things, and similar to what you do, your foot is in a few different areas just in case, you know. That's your just in case. Yeah, so I think that's...
But it's really interesting, that thing of like, of those like small things of like getting that keyboard, and not that it's like your fault and this is why I'm broke. But like that stuff of like those moments that even though like creative, I guess, practice as a career is somewhat, it is work to put into the imagination of being like from migrant families, but that the aspect of creativity and that role in your life, and however that manifests, like in storytelling or like performing within your community or just expression, is something that is part of what we do. And maybe it's that thing of like, maybe it's like the relationship to that creativity is not like, it's not a money thing, it's just a thing that we do.
I think, and also getting in touch back with my, you know, roots, my ancestry, and just seeing how dancing and storytelling and performing and all these different ways that we express ourselves has been something that we've been doing since before time, you know. And I think it's just due to colonialism and, you know, evolution and the world evolving that, you know, we've had to take on these positions, particular positions in life, and what has defined success. So I guess my first question is, you know, how do you define success for your children? Like, what is success to you, for them?
I guess they have to be happy, but on the same token, you have to be able to put a roof over yourself and food on the table. I think what she does, it's great. It makes her happy, it gives her purpose. But as a parent, you know, when I'm not here in 20, 40 years' time, I would want to know that, you know, she's able to put a roof over herself and food on her table. And being a woman, I think it's important to be independent. I really want all my 3 daughters to be independent women, not to rely on somebody else, that, you know, I will be doing this little thing here and not get paid and rely on somebody else to put a roof over me. I think that predisposes you to abuse and all those things because you're relying on somebody else. So I feel that, you know, even if she's doing this, somehow she has to work out a way that she becomes independent. I'm not very familiar with the steps that she needs to take, but I think there are people around that she can watch and take those steps so that she becomes an independent person. Because, I mean, as she said before, she did move out, and then she was, oh, it's good because her dad and I are still there, you know, we're able to say, you know, come back home. But what will happen if I'm not here? You see, that's a concern for a parent.
I think that's an important one you've touched on about the independence, because some of us are taught that go find a man with money, go find a rich man that can look after you, and instead of saying go and be able to look after yourself, maybe that's where your feminism 101 comes from. And what about the African community and the creative industry? What's the general attitude, would you say?
Like when you came here, no, you answer that question. I've got to follow on. You go.
Growing up, things like arts weren't a big thing for us. It's not something that you thought of as a career. It was something that we would have looked at as a hobby. You did this as a hobby, but you would go and have a real job. So it's quite a different thing for us. There's a big thing about culture and all that stuff. But for us, growing up, we had storytelling and all that stuff. But it wasn't a thing that you could use for an income. As Moreblessing did say, it's a cultural community thing. We do storytelling, we do dancing, drumming and all that stuff. That's just part of a community. You do that at the evening at home, before dinner or after dinner, you do storytelling and acting out and all that stuff, but it's not necessarily an income producing aspect. So if you're now taking that to be an income producing aspect, it's quite a different thing altogether.
I was gonna ask, like when you, because when we came, I was 8, and I was just saying, like my memory of, I guess, black people on TV was Fuzzy or Faustina on MTV and Carol on Saddle Club, if anyone remembers. Yeah, her edges were always laid. But like when you came, and I don't know whether. On how, like, what of the TV that you did see and all that kind of, even like news, what was that image like? And have you noticed it change? Or is it, like, aside from me and seeing me? Please say that.
Maybe the other thing is, being not my thing, maybe I don't pay so much attention to it, but obviously there's more people of color in main TV and all that as years go by. But I would think you see it more because it's more of your focus. I think we see more of what we want to see, I think. Because where I've worked, I've always seen black people around, so I think that makes it a bit different.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I want to know what that's like. Just off the back of that, what is your thing? This is not your thing. Let's do a quick 60-second, Q&A, just 1 minute to answer these questions, because I'm curious to know if we can find out any hidden talents you might have, Auntie. That's the first question. Do you have any hidden talents?
No, other than knitting, crochet. I don't know whether that's called a talent. I don't think so.
It's a gift. I'd love to.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, some amazing things can be made out of that. Moreblessing.
Throws. We've got ponchos, like beanies. We've got it. Come get your crochet. Hidden talents
that we don't know about.
It was hidden, but I would write poetry, but then I started performing it like a month ago, so it's not secret. It's like, what am I not exploiting for financial benefit?
All right.
I do paint with oils.
Oh,
yeah,
artist.
That's fun. Yeah.
Okay, next exhibition coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about your auntie? Any childhood nicknames? Street names? We all got a street name. Yeah, what did they call you in the neighborhood?
Just the same. Yeah, no, when I was young, I was really quite slim. And yeah, when we were in high school, we used to wear these uniforms that had plates around and then you had a belt on. So when you put the belt on, the waist really went in. And so most people would call me Mosquito because it'd be like
Mosquito.
A compliment.
Something that I'm generally interested in, because I think I share similar views with you, Moreblessings, with activism. You're an activist, you're an actor. What is that to you? And do you agree, Auntie, do you agree with her activism? So the question for you is, tell us about your activism, and your answer is,
right. Okay.
what do you agree?
Oh, I am.
Have you told her this before?
Yeah. Oh, we're going in. Buckle up. Okay. So I guess my activism sort of started like when I was in uni for that semester. I just had like access to databases, and it was really like I found like I enjoy psychology. I love learning. I just didn't like the stress of studying in that format. So then I like downloaded all the PDFs and just like did it by myself and just like read it. I'm like, oh, interesting. Is there another research paper that says something different? And just like did it that way. And then and that was like through psychology. And then I was like, I wonder why people think the way they are about race and about gender and about like sexuality and all that stuff. And then sort of, I guess, approached it. And I guess my activism is somewhat intellectual, which has its pros and cons and its exclusive and non-inclusive like aspects and things like that. And so I found that my activism, because I did come at it from a place where I knew all this stuff, I was like, why doesn't other people know it? Why doesn't other people know it? And so it's kind of, and I also, like I was saying, meeting Candy Bowers, who's just like this incredible powerhouse of an artist in my first year out of high school, and being like, South African Blasian, incredible woman, and just like watching her and listening to her and sort of like having her as my mentor, and her being like this artist who just kind of said it like it is and wasn't necessarily afraid of like losing work, which I think was like my main concern when I started, was like, I don't know if this is right. And having her, for example, be employed by a theatre company and while still being employed, be totally fine with calling them out. And I was like, oh God. And then she continued to get work. And I was like, wow. So then I kind of took like sometimes, depending on the majority, my activism is kind of like a take no prisoners sort of approach, which if you meet me through an email might feel very harsh, but in person I just make a lot of more side eyes and roll my eyes more. But I think it's sort of like I'm very selective about the people that I choose to take the time to be like, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's see where you're coming from and where can we meet. More often than not, I'll just be like,
give us an idea of what's something that's true to your heart that you I guess want to see a change in or a difference in. What's one of the
big ones?
Yeah. What are the big issues?
Because I guess I work mostly in theatre. So is that still working?
It's okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, projection. Me. So because I work mostly in theatre, a big thing for me would be to get at least one person of colour as an artistic director of a theatre company. That would just at least one. No, three. I want three. Three. Yeah. I mean, we only have one woman at the moment, and it's kind of like, and yeah, and or even just like if I'm gonna ask I'm going to go big. A theatre company that does focus on work done by people of colour, which probably means I'm just like adding a thing on my list of things to do. But yeah. I'd like for like if I was graduating out of high school, maybe let's say I'll give myself 5 years to be like, yeah, there's like places I can go, or there's like this person that I can somehow access within like screen, or this person I can access through musical theatre, this person I can talk to through theatre, this company I can go to, these funding bodies I can go to, these mentors. And that's the things I think, like I was talking to a friend of mine, Tasneem, and she was saying that the fact that for, I guess, artists in this like 20s to maybe early 30s age bracket, all of our mentors are no more than 20 years older than us. That we don't have, our mentors of colour, that we don't have the equivalents of like Maya Angelou and Audre Lorde, that we can be like, oh, this is like there is like greater things to aspire to, so you're kind of constantly finding new ground. Yeah.
Oh. And Auntie, is that something you agree with? Or do you understand the importance of that, I guess, for her?
I guess it's a difficult one. I think it's a platform that she feels she needs to be on, and you know everyone has a purpose here to do something. As I said before, I think we are quite different in when we look at things. I think for me, sometimes it's to look at, you know, if someone said something, my response is my responsibility. You know, I choose how to respond. And sometimes you can get so worked up by what somebody else said, so much that it affects who you are, it affects what you do, and at the end of the day, you've given your joy away for nothing to somebody else, and that person has walked away and they don't even remember what they said to you. So I think, personally, I choose my battles. Is this a battle worth fighting or not? And I find that most of them are not, you know. But I guess there has to be maybe a Martin Luther some way. There has to be somebody, but I think sometimes I find that she really gets worked up, and sometimes I'm like, not sure whether that's with your mental health. You know, it's some of those things. I think, you know, different people, they could either be people who came from Africa, they could have come from Asia, they could have come from different places, but I think you have to choose what's worth fighting for at the end of the day. And sometimes you might also think, you know, sometimes we do create a story. Someone can say something or do something, but I look at it with my eyes that, you know, I think they're being racist. And I create this story and I get worked up. And that person actually didn't even know what they were doing. I didn't even understand why they were doing it. So I think it's a different way of looking at things. You know, you can get frustrated by people in traffic. You're like, why is this person so slow in front of me? You know, you think they're really out there to get you, or you try to go to this lane, or they're going on this lane as well because, you know, they're trying to block me. But at the end, you work out, you go past them, you see they're on their mobile phone. They have nothing to do with you, absolutely nothing at all. So I think it's, yeah, if she has the capacity to carry the world, you know, I think it's a hard task.
And speaking of which, you mentioned about, you know, where all the different places we come from, and I guess all our stories are different to how we came here. I mean, my story about how my family got here is different to yours, and I'm just keen to know what brought your family here.
We just had the girls then. We didn't have Andrew, so we wanted the girls to have an education that they could take them anywhere in the world, you know, wherever they wanted to be. And my husband and I always wanted the girls to have the best, to travel the world and do things that we didn't get to do. I think for them coming here and getting an education or opportunities that they could advance and go anywhere they want, that was the purpose. Yeah.
Excellent. And do you feel that's being fulfilled in a way?
Oh, yes, it is. I mean, nothing is stopping them, now there's careers that have got names that you're like, is this a career? There's all sorts of things that you could do. I mean, so it's really opened up opportunity for them to do whatever they want to do.
One of the things we were talking about before everybody got here was, kind of similar to this question about education. And I mean, for me personally, I feel like whether it's younger people or my kind of age group, or just now, it's a bit of a discussion that's been going on about, the education that's been given to us, people of colour, people from migrant backgrounds, even the education, the colonial education that we get, and not really speaking to us. And it's, it's almost like, our parents said, we're bringing you here to get this education, and we're getting this education, we're saying there's something not right about this education. And I don't know if you've come across that yourself, but maybe Moreblessing, you can touch a little bit on that about, I guess, like what you're doing, looking through databases and going, what's going on here. But yeah, I don't know if you agree with me, audience, about this kind of backlash on traditional Western education that we've been striving for, and we're looking at it now going, hang on, there's something wrong with this picture.
It's been really interesting for me, I guess, because there is always that part of me, especially like since I've left uni, which is like knowing that my parents are like, yeah, we'll like move to us, we'll like every now and then I just remember, I'm like, we came here with like suitcases. Like, for real. Like, it was just like, each of us had a suitcase, and that is how we, like, we just were putting our house into house amount on the listings, and us trying to decide what to put in storage was ridiculous. Like, I don't even now, like, everything's, like, come back, and it's just sitting in the garage. It's just things we clearly don't use, but it's just like that thing of like coming here on the plane thinking that city rail was like crazy fast, and and like just being in the living room with like 4 or 5 suitcases, and like the first thing we bought was a radio, and like looking at that and like the ambition and aspiration that, like, even because so I'm 22 now, like I would not be, I'm not moving like international. Like I'm not in a place to relocate in my 20. Maybe if I'm like maybe 26, let's hope, relocate to another country. But to like be like, yeah, we're moving our whole family and leaving, I guess, everybody, like, just our immediate family here with the hopes that your children will benefit from this. And then me being here and being like, I don't want to go to uni, and just like trying to process that and be like, whether it's just me trying to make myself feel better about my choice, or is it, I don't know how much truth it holds, of like, is that the pinnacle of like access to success, the actual option to be like, I can choose to not do that, like that going to uni isn't my only like key out, that I've got access to that many resources and that much choice that I can do other stuff, or it just means I'm lazy. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's still you're exposed to more opportunity than ever, because if you were back home, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Definitely you wouldn't. So I think you're still exposed to more opportunity than you would have had. I mean, you wouldn't have had a platform to start your own magazine. You wouldn't have had a platform to do what you do, because it's not a big thing. People don't do this as a career option. So I think you're still exposed to more opportunities. you still have the option to say, you know, I'll do this or do that. You know, we have 3 other children, so they still have got more opportunities as well. So it's
That's why you have more than one.
it's yeah. I mean, at least as 4 of you, you're going to look after each other when we're not around. So.
And just in respect to, you know, people from, you know, backgrounds, African backgrounds and other cultural, diverse families, what would you like to see? What would you have liked to see happen? What's your ideal picture of the eldest?
I actually don't have like career ideas for any of my children. No, I don't. I'm just thinking about it now. I don't have a career idea for any of them. I mean, I think they have the environment to choose what's best for them. And I think their dad and I would do our best to support them. Hopefully it will work out for the 4 of them. If it doesn't, one of them should be able to look after the other ones, I think.
And is there any advice for your present self, or would you give to anyone else when they're forging out to, you know, take a creative path? And are there any experiences and doubts that you've been through besides, you know, not being able to pay your rent and having to go back home?
I guess even for like present me, and any like I guess people of color or emerging artists of color or anyone who I guess wants to do this, I think in the most recent couple of years, realizing that, because there was for a time there was some sort of like subconscious conclusion I'd come to that my culture couldn't coexist with my career, and that if I was on brand Moreblessing, that was very different to in the house Moreblessing, and that they couldn't share space. And same thing as like my family or my communities or my culture stories couldn't coexist with the good way to do theatre. Like I couldn't, you can't work at Bell and still maintain this like connection to culture and that kind of stuff. And you can't, and like have that same thing of like success looks like performing at the Opera House in front of people that have paid like $120 per ticket, which really limits who's in the audience. And I think in the most recent years, kind of like having conversations with my mum and like thinking about going back to Zimbabwe, which I've had many conversations about, like whether, looking at like how a career like there would work out and what storytelling is like there. And I think I found most fulfillment in those conversations with my mum and being like, what is it, what are we working through as like a first generation migrant family, which also goes across like my parents who came as adults, me coming as a child, my brother who was born here. What are the stories that, what are they are Australian stories that are happening within my community that I think deserve as much of a space in our industry and in our history books. And I feel like I'm feeling the most about it compared to everything. Words.
I know we're tight for time, and I want to open up for the audience to ask some questions, but just because we're talking about Zimbabwe, Auntie, is there anything that maybe you would have done differently with, you know, having to move here, starting from scratch, I guess to keep the girls and your children all together? I like to call them the girls like you have. But I know we're just mainly talking about Moreblessings tonight, but just to, I guess, keep that connection, because we were talking earlier about, you know, the same thing happens to me here. You know, when I'm in Australia, I can be Ugandan, but when I go to Uganda, I'm Australian. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not, you know, you can't do that to me. I'm from here. They're like, no, but you don't. You didn't have the same, you know, you didn't grow up here. you grew up there, so you're from there, but they don't get what we face growing up here when it's constant like, where are you from? Do you like it here? Da, 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 you know, that constant trying to be accepted. So is there anything that, you know, maybe you would have done a bit differently for them?
I can't think of anything that I could have done differently. I think the only thing is maybe exposing them more to our languages. That's the only thing that they speak fluent English and don't speak fluently any of our languages. Yeah, I think I wouldn't change anything. I think her finding her path difficult makes her who she is, and the resilience that she gets, and the big decisions that we made when we left everything that we had, applied for a job here and started working here just for them. I guess it's any parent make those sacrifices. It's just different degrees of how that looks like, but all parents make sacrifices, and I think it's something that we've passed on to them. I guess they would learn that, and if they have their own children, they will make sacrifices for those children as well.
Well, being also a mother of two myself, I can definitely relate to that. And, you know, maybe this is what it might look like 10, 20 years from now. More blessings with the family and still doing it. Is it okay if we just have a couple of questions? I know we're really gone over time, but we didn't start exactly at 8 o'clock, so it's okay. We didn't start talking at 8 o'clock. So it doesn't count, as my son would say. A couple of questions from the audience. Please ask the questions that we didn't ask. Yes.
Being in a library and giving a talk of this kind of, thematic presentation, compared to growing up and seeing theatre, what do the words audience mean to you, Moreblessing, and to Auntie?
Oh, it's beautiful.
I think storytelling in our culture is more of a family thing. It's a story that, we have grandma telling stories after dinner before kids go to bed, and the stories always have a moral to it, and the kids learn from that. And it's a story that could be told in this family, the family next door, the family next door. You go to school, everyone knows that story because children learn from those folk tales which were being told. They were not more of a big public space where you would find people sitting there and telling stories. It could happen if there's an occasion, but most of the time it's a family thing, because we always had grandparents and living with the family, so they usually took the role of storytelling. So I think it's quite different from the theatre where you're on stage and you've got all these people sitting there and watching a story. Whereas for us, the story will be quite interactive. The grandkids will be saying, "What next, Grandma? What next, Grandma?" So the kids, even if they're being told the same story that they were told last week, they will continue to listen attentively and ask questions for that story until, they've outgrown the lesson that's in the story.
Oh, beautiful.
Because I guess with the work that I usually do and what I focus on, I'm constantly trying to shift the narrative and to change the audiences as my buzzwords. But I think I had a conversation with my mum 2 days ago, around this whole thing. And just so you know, I've been telling people what you said, and they're like, "She is so smart," and I'm like, "I know." Around audiences and what we see as a theatre space, because also negotiating with myself as an artist around the difference in audience in terms of who I am telling my story to and who I say the story is for. and where those things intersect and where they are separate. Wherein, I guess, if I'm, you know, I write my stories, I do my storytelling for the community, for my people, for my family. But if the people who are in front of me are very different to who I say it's for, how do I balance that? And I guess even, and I don't know, maybe where I'm at the moment, audience, I'm leaning towards prioritizing who the for audience, not necessarily to the two. And even if the people if they do happen to be part of that audience and they enjoy it, great, but they aren't my main priority. And I guess also then, as a storyteller, which audience I then share with, if that makes, I don't know. Yeah, there's been a lot of thoughts I've been having recently.
Speaking of audience, since we have an audience here, I think it's time for the audience to maybe take a trip down memory lane and check out some childhood photos. And maybe you can share with us a bit about these photos. Oh, cute.
So this is my first day of high school. Thoughts and prayers. Oh, wow. I really like those. Was it like Rush? Oh, like, yeah, Rush was making these like really big backpacks and they were the thing. And that's my brother. He was born that year, wasn't he? Was he one? I don't even know. 2008. Okay, it was just 6 months. That's Andrew, the one that we've been talking about. Isn't he great? Oh, jeez. So, like, this was like the main aesthetic when we were here. We kind of were always dressed in matching. It was always a matching situation.
You have to make it easy for yourself as well.
Yeah, and then it'd also be like, no, I want that one, and it's like, well, you have the same, go. Yeah, and this was, I think it was like Gold Coast the first time we went. I don't remember much of it, and I think we went back again this year because Ashley was like 3 there, and she was like, I've never been. It was fun. Look at me. Again, see, it was like the chord situation. I feel like this has greatly influenced my sense of like style today. Just like understanding what works together. If it's sold together, it goes together. I think it was an excursion.
Preschool excursion. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where were we? I just know this is like it's like a mini train track with like those little trolleys where like coal is put into, but I don't know if it was a mine. I don't think it was a museum. Oh, it was a museum. Okay. Right. So yes, this was me in year 1, because we did, our kindy was grade 1, yeah, so this was me kindy. It's one of my faves because I look a lot like what my brother looks like now. It's great. Yeah. Oh, that's so special. Squad. There's, again, matching bikes, you all notice, and the matching shirts. This is my sister. Geez, she looked like that. We had that bike for a long time as well, and this was like at the flared jeans, wow, and thongs, like it was just like a park in Chatswood when we were living in Chatswood, yeah. 2005, year 4, year 6, What choices was I making? Okay, it was year 6, and I think were you still doing my hair then? Yes. See? And that's why it looked like, I think you stopped when I started high school? I think so. Yeah, when I started high school, she stopped doing my hair and it went downhill very quickly. It went so quickly. Oh, this is my fave. This is I was 5, I think, and it was Christmas. Yeah. Preschool, and like there was like a fire. Was it? No, it wasn't fire. That's here. There was a Santa, and parents donated gifts to the thing, to like the gift sack. And this is my sister, the next oldest. She has a double degree, so she will be looking after me. And then there were like surprise presents, and then we ended up with the same remote control car. It was like, oh, okay, cool, it was planned, it was destiny. And this was me on said 10th birthday when I got my keyboard. I also got a picture frame. I think I still have that in a box, and it was like, you were loved and all that stuff. They were great like that, yeah. And then this was like a couple months ago, right? How cute are we? And it was taken by my dear friend Teniola. It was great because it was like, because usually my transits in and home, I'm like, I come home to sleep and then I wake up and then we might bump into each other every couple of weeks. So planning this, I was just like, she was like finishing work at 5 and I was like, okay, I can stop by St. Leonard's for like 10 minutes and then I've got to go back into the city. So I was like, okay, and go. And then we meet and the photographer was there and we took the picture and she's like, okay, bye, I'm catching the bus home. And then she went and catch the bus home and I took the train back into the city and I was like, there we go. That's it for another month. Yeah, but it's great and now we're here. It all worked out. Oh, sorry.
I want this to keep going. I'm enjoying this. You're brave. I don't know if I'll be showing a whole library of my photos. Some of my photos. My photos are pretty, you know.
We were looking through the whole, my dad's like done a great job of keeping them all, and then some of them I was like,
Keep going. Wow, yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Auntie Bisu, and more blessings. For sharing your stories. Any last advice for parents of children who want a creative career?
I haven't figured this out. I really don't know. I have a 15-year-old at home, and I don't know. I don't have a template. After, as she said, her sister just finished uni. I couldn't have used the template with her on her, and I can't use a template that I already have, so I'm still figuring it out.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I don't think I'll ever figure it out until they all leave home.
Hint, hint. No. Yeah, thank you all so much. Make sure you come back next month. I believe this is the second installment of this great series from Carnival of the Bold. Next month, Frida and Kwakab, I'm not going to do the last name, Deguiz, Frida Deguiz, and Kwakab Dakiz. Take this flyer with you. The date is actually 23rd of August, not the 19th of July, which is today. So, the 23rd of August. Tell your friends about it. I've enjoyed being a part of this, so thank you again for inviting me to do this. Audience, do you want to say something, do something, anything?
Thank you all for coming, and thank my mum for also coming and being great. She was fine. You were fine. You were great. And thank you, Kween, as well, and Kevin and the whole team for doing this amazing thing. As you head out, I do have copies of Folk Magazine there if you want to peruse it. It's just a whole publication with artists of colour in it. Whatever. If you want to suss that out, you don't even have to buy it. Just look at it. I hear that it's really pretty, so have a look. So suss it out. Thank you again for coming.
And you can stay for some refreshments as well and network.